We're not gonna win. That energy.
Oh, it wasn't recorded. I
I
thought it
wasn't
was recorded
recording, yeah.
the
So when I was
entire time.
asking, yeah, I'm trying to do the setup real quick, and I'm like, oh, she's in there. She is all the way in there. It's all good. It is okay. It's
I'm
okay. So
dead.
get
I'm
that
crying.
intro.
Ain't nothing worse than a smart dumb.
Hey yo! Hey yo! Hey yo! Hey yo!
Welcome everybody to another episode of the Smart Dumb Podcast. I feel like I should like just stop because we done already got into it.
We done already started breaking out the operational definitions and
My
everything.
guest is ready and I'm ready for it. So please, this is yet another. It's the joys of the spoken word scene out here. We had whether it's fellow performers and fellow supporters, and we just kind of get around each other's space and slowly get to know more about each other. So let me allow you to introduce yourself and just how we started off.
I mean, I love peeling back some layers. Shrek was one of my favorite. That's a lie. It's not one of my favorite, but it was a very cathartic. That's not the word I'm looking for, but I'm gonna run with it. It
Right.
was one of those movies that really shaped a lot about how I view the world. So I definitely understand that. My name is Uwana Abasi, y'all. Uwana, as in you want to remember my name. I stick to
Right.
my first name for the most part because who knows? I might be famous. And you get to say you knew that girl back before she was famous, the way they talk about Megan Pete before she was Meg the Stallion,
Hmm.
right? Um, my art form, my go-to art form is improv, right? And I utilize that in a theatrical sense,
Hmm.
right? And I'm still exploring my creativity. I'm Nigerian. If you know, you know, right? Doctor, lawyer, engineer.
Hmm.
What's the other one? Doctor, lawyer, engineer. What's the other one? It's like business, right? I didn't even know about the other three until college. I was just getting brain dumped, brainwashed into
Right.
doctor, 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 and I didn't even want to be a doctor. I hated
Right.
Uncle Sam, but my dad was determined to get a doctor.
I'm
My
I'm I'm
PhD.
I'm laughing because at this point it's probably been 2 or 3 years ago, and it was another one of my guests who's like from the islands and did decide I'm allowed to be one of five.
Those are go too far. Any
It's
other for your disappointments.
it's funny, but it's unfortunate. But it's funny because I mean, at this point, at this age, it's like, all right, I'm gonna be what I'm gonna be. So
Just laugh
y'all
at the
gonna be all
trauma at this point. That's the
right.
point
Yeah,
of improv. It's the one that organically just comes to me. I'm gonna
right.
say the shit that most people ain't gonna say, willing to
Hmm.
say, or I'm gonna find a try to joy in the trauma. I'm gonna definitely do that. That's my
Right.
go-to.
Right, and that was the energy from day one. When I first seen you get up on a mic, it was Miko's joint out there in at the smokehouse that we used to be at.
I remember that one.
Yeah,
The not safe for work one.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You were saying what other people were like. You embodied all of that, and I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So, what how did you identify that the improv, because that's not easy at all. It's not Dr. Lawyer blah blah blah, but it's also not easy because one is to have a mind, a creative mind, and the other one is to have basically the confidence in self that like the first thing I'm thinking of right now is what we're gonna like. That's a whole different beast.
That's actually a really great question. I'm predisposed to it. Like that's the thing about laughing through the trauma. I'm actually like predisposed to like going with other people's flows. But I learned throughout life to like take the pieces that I liked and fucked with
Hmm.
and build that up. And
Okay.
that's what I realized. Oh, that's what makes improv what it is. People think it's about being funny, and it's like, no, it's about building,
Hmm.
right? It's about being supportive, right? And removing your presence at the end of the day if you don't like what is being built, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you understand that it's its own entity, right? You can't change it, but once it's out there. But I also have sometimes I've had a friend say that I have a hyper visibility of like mistakes. Like I'm not afraid to fuck up in public. I'm not afraid to make mistakes. I'm not afraid to be flawed and show my flaws like ass out, right? Because I was blessed to have a lot of teachers and I couldn't make those mistakes at home. And
Mm-hmm.
it's funny because as I'm like even studying to become a teacher myself, I'm realizing like, oh, you were like really blessed. Like you really had amazing teachers here out, which just feels like that's why I believe in God because at home it was not like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that if I didn't get whatever I need to learn done in the classroom, it was about what will I miss? Like what lessons will I miss or will it make it harder to learn because there's not enough guidance helping me at home,
Okay.
right? Like
Okay.
I had people who were present, but I couldn't have people who helped me navigate like being black, being a woman, being all these things and the perfection of America. And also the perfection is overrated. Like I would find it very exhausting, obviously, to deal with because it's not like my home was a home, right? It was just
Mm-hmm.
a house.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, because of that, I have a very high propensity or like inclinations towards fucking up because if I don't get the mistakes out, I won't learn how to better it. I won't learn to even feel confident and feel because it's in the progress that people learn their intuition. It's in the progress that people learn to build their confidence. It's like seeing where you started and where you ended up, and for lack of better words, it's those journeys that really teach you what you're made of.
Yeah.
And so because of that, it's like I just have a higher inclination towards that because now I'm in a life where I really need to like learn structure and routine.
Right.
So that's why people probably struggle with improv a lot because you're breaking the routine, you're breaking systemic oppression, you're breaking the generational, you're breaking all the habits that are not serving you in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you feel like, and if it is a either or, do you feel like it is going to be more of a challenge for you to take, the improv spontaneousness and structure it, or someone who's just perfected the ability to conform, and if they ever tried to step out into their creativity, does it seem like one would be mostly more difficult than the other, or they all their own?
It depends on the individual,
Mm-hmm.
right? For me, actually, I don't want to talk about me because I don't even know. I'm still figuring out aspects of me. But
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to most people, I'm literally processing and learning how strong socializations are, like which ones are efficient and comfortable for a person, right? Like, I'm thinking about timeliness a lot, like the function of timeliness, the purpose of timeless. Yes, it's a construct. I really believe is very Eurocentric, right? But at the end of the day, it has served its purpose in having more Black people commune, meet. It has served the diaspora in learning to like commune effectively and strategically. But
Mm-hmm.
then it's also like, would we even have to do this shit effectively and strategically before colonization?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's like one of the questions that I'm like, when I think about applying indigenous practices, right? If you got to go hunt, you was going by what nature was telling you to do, and nature changes, right? So you going off of signals. That's also very key marker of improv. Like you're going off of signals, you're clocking and recognizing patterns, zodiac signs, this, that, and the third, right? You're not giving it the full weight for the most part. You're learning to apply logic to what you can make sense of when it comes to those patterns, but it's just a lot of pattern recognition. And when you get to a point where you really got a pattern down, that's when you're able to be like, okay, it's like driving. Like, when do you know to change lanes? If you see they're leaning a little bit to your lane, right? And we talk about traffic, right? Like they lean a little bit towards your lane, and you like, all right, this nigga look like they about to get into my lane. What they about to do next, right? Like clocking those markers, understanding the decision, thought patterns and stuff like that.
Right.
I feel like It can be stressful, but if you learn to have fun with it, I like romanticizing my drives with music, listen to the radio, learning about other people, learning about other communities, right? Once those markers get root enough in your memory, like there just gets to a point where you can multitask in that way where you might not be able to multitask, but it's also like you're practicing autonomy. I feel like that's a very underrated word
Mhm.
because it's key. Like it's the whole C to motivation. Having your own goals is and not something that's external, like the validation or approval of someone else.
Okay.
Having your own goals is where you start learning self-motivation.
Right.
And I feel like I'm rambling. So back to you, boss.
It's one of the things I was thinking earlier is like, yeah, like all of from Nigeria to all the rest of Africa to like the various islands elsewhere, like we just have, and even black people, we all have that black, just that PC time, CP time, excuse me, CP time, that black person being like all, and it's actually we have levels of them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So with the reputation being worse than others, so obviously that's always the jokes fly there. But it was interesting to just hear you tie it into like, okay, some of it is yeah. I always yeah, time is definitely a construct, but then it also is relevant. But that's because of the society we
That we currently
reside in.
live in. Because when you
Yeah,
had to hunt, when you was running from a lion because
yeah.
the lion was
Well,
ready
no,
to
is it 8:30? Are the doors open? Are we
fuck a watch. What's
picking
a
up the
watch?
phone?
Yeah, fuck a
Right.
watch. Like, what is a watch, bro?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have no protection. Your protection was your brain.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, understanding the environment. No, it's absolutely right. Yeah, listen, when the sun up, the sun down, but the sun up is, and that's even just something as simple as like, um, you know, um, um,
Right, and
folks who
stuff like that.
practice
Nope.
Islam and Ramadan, like they go off for sun up to sundown, not six to whatever. You know what I mean? So it's that's very fascinating. I'm glad you brought that up. That's very interesting. Now we can rewind all the way back. Very, I appreciate that you, spoke on a family situation. I'm not going to dive further than what you shared, but as far as shouting out the teachers, that's really dope. I'm glad you had that experience, that you were even, to remember to share that. How early do you recall that you were starting to get that you were getting, the encouragement as a young person, like to
My
live like,
daycare,
hmm?
down to my daycares.
Okay.
Like it's
Wow.
been, and I
That's
don't.
incredible.
Apparently, that's a sign of autism, so I gotta go look into that. But I remember down to my daycares feeling not only protected, feeling guided. I felt like I learned how to tie my shoes probably through my like daycare work. I can literally almost damn near imagine to an extent what it felt like for a white person to be um raised, like a white child to be raised by the mammy and to just like have that like certain connection, right? Because I didn't understand why people didn't want to learn. I didn't understand even into adulthood, like late like my most recent adulthood, why people struggle with school, why people struggled with learning. And then the third, and I'm realizing, oh, it's the trauma
Mhm.
of the school system and how, for the most part, it actually has been a form of indoctrination and assimilation
Very
and
much
like
so.
pushing negative well just yeah just enforcing trauma and reinforcing trauma and like I don't want to say slavery even though that's it, but like that, like just
Yeah,
colonization more or
yeah,
less.
yeah.
But there's a way that my daycare workers, like I just remembered experiencing probably what love and care felt like. I feel like I experienced it a little in my church when it came to the Sunday school teachers, right? But it's like the teachings didn't resonate with me that they were trying to teach us like that. But I just remembered the feelings and the energy. And I will say it like this. My mom was a Sunday school teacher, so I felt it from her when it was just us two, right? Like when it came down to like, but she had to employ so much like structure, even though like, for example, I would hate wash day. it would only happen once a month, but I hated it because it was such an uncomfortable process, and to still feel like I was not beautiful at the end of it. It probably felt fruitless to the younger version of me. So I didn't fully understand why we needed to wash my hair. I didn't understand that my hair was growing a lot, right? I didn't realize like I came out with like a head full of hair. So that's like even like a place of both confidence for me, right? As well as a place of insecurity for me when
Right.
that's attacked. Like a lot of it's not my face. A lot of people, it's different things. My hair that gets attacked, like I feel a deep way about the appearance of my hair,
Mm.
covered and uncovered, right? I used to feel a way about being African, but then we was up in college, so I got to have to let go of that script in my head. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that is also something that has come up repeatedly, well, I can't say I remember. I honestly didn't partake too much, but like, yeah, Africans was catching it's not even strays. Y'all was
Crazy.
catching, you was in the scope.
It was in the
Y'all was the
trenches.
target.
That's why the African baddies now, all they do is wear wigs. Y'all will never see their guy. Some niggas, some people, some black folk. Y'all
Yeah,
will never see African girls 4C hair ever the fuck again because of the reaction. It's just like now a lot of the ones who are decolonizing their brains and those insecurities and stuff like that, they're just locking it up. They're like, fuck you. We're
yeah,
locking it up. They're not being bald like we were in our like what their counterparts are doing back in Africa, who like have that self-confidence and like don't care but recognize the tediousness of navigating hair, right? So they'll lock it up, right? But I wouldn't even be surprised if they're locking it up to show like, nah, 4C hair can grow. Stop fucking playing with us.
right,
Like,
right.
yeah.
Right. Nah, yeah, so it is, I mean, there's a lot of cycles in life, and so that's one of them, definitely. And it's come up, and I've heard it recently, a lot of people, and that was interesting. I mean, even again, the positive side of you with good teachers, but like these situations that we just say is just jokes at 8. Well, then why are we still bringing it up?
I still
It
remember
clearly
Kyle
is
from
bigger.
fourth grade calling my
Yeah.
shit doo-doo braids.
Right.
Yep, sure
Right,
do.
right. I remember you. Damn near remember the kid. No, you know what I mean. It's like we gotta stop lying to ourselves. And I
Words do hurt.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. I think that. So then that people say that the same way that we tell men just man up, and like these are all people lying to themselves so that they don't have to dig deep and own the fact that this affected me, and then do the healthy way to go about it is acknowledge it and then go do the work. But like it's not easy, so I feel like people don't
Especially if you
know.
don't have the tools, especially if you don't
Yeah,
know how
and it
to.
right, the generation that raised us, they damn
They
sure
know how
didn't
to
know.
do shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. They didn't know for multiple reasons. Some of it is excusable, some of it is some trashy, and it's
Across the board. It's
yeah,
across the
right.
board.
Across the board, right? So it's like that's kind of our opportunity, to as far as bringing in those who are in their school and coming up, like that next generation to like we have at least more, but we need to continue to push that mental health, that self love, because then it also should just be as simple as the fact that you should be able to. There's levels of comedy and jabbing at each other that's well meaning, and then there's maliciousness, right? So but we should get to a point where we can have fun with friends on the various things and not have that be a whole complex or whatever. So that just involves that, like when you have the self-confidence, it's harder for somebody to penetrate. And then also I've heard it all. I said it, said it all. It's like y'all can't affect me for real. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, this is fun. This is fun.
Yeah.
What where I know you have a Nigerian background. Where were you raised, born, and all that?
So originated in DC, right? Like I literally lived in the wharf before it was gentrified up
Hmm.
until like third grade. Cause lately a lot of like life has been, especially like when I'm like not working and it's like I'm in these weird employment phases where it's not that consistent. I've actually had to revisit like where my school was, and it's just crazy like how this feeling of you're going to be fine, you're going to be okay, just by like seeing some of the old places that I used to exist in, that I just felt maybe like a shell of myself, but knowing like this adult version of me is completely different. They know how to advocate for myself, because it's not that I couldn't advocate for myself as a kid. I just didn't know how to effectively, and I didn't know who would give a shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now that I understand the parameters and factors of being able to advocate for myself, there's just this way that I'm a completely confident person, where I still felt like I was confident in my brain. I just couldn't show that as a
Mm-hmm.
kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just felt like, you know how the avatar was locked away in the ice and shit like that? I just felt like, which is why I probably gravitated towards a lot of fantasy and secret powers, like unlocked type stories and narratives. Um, in nonfiction, I like feel like a completely different person when I look at some of these places. And I'm just like, damn, so even with the unease that can still overwhelm me in adulthood, like look at how far you fucking come. Like who
Right.
the fuck, like the bitch that you are. Like your younger self would be so proud to just know who you are and where we ended up, even if this is just part of our journey, right? And so I started off in DC, right? And then third grade, we moved to rising fourth grade, I moved to Laurel, Maryland. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm a rep Laurel all day, everything, because they were trying to come for us. Um, but now everyone fucking wants to live. That's where a lot of people find their reinvention.
Mm-hmm.
My reinvention looks like it's happening in Baltimore, right? But a lot of friends, while they were figuring out their reinvention, it happened in Laurel, Maryland, right?
Okay.
And I would say I've been living there maybe up until this year. So cross fingers, I'm like moving out, like I'm making the paces. I can't think too deep about it. Sometimes I have to do shit and release my intention. Sorry, make the intention, release it,
Right.
and then just like make small choices and steps that lead to it. Cause I can hit this level of like want it too much or don't want it enough, and I just sabotage myself, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's like I have to make sure I like release my tension. So cross fingers, but most likely I'm gonna be out in Baltimore in these glizzy streets. But yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. So yeah, it's been interesting for me. Uh,
Mhm.
this now being 8 years I've been here, being to the point that I can truly call it home. So it's been interesting to see other. I mean, Maryland and DMV got, and Baltimore got the transplants.
So many cultures,
Yeah,
yes.
it's fascinating. It's just right in this radius. And then even the other thing is, yeah, Baltimore's not DC. DC's not Maryland. Different parts of Maryland are not other parts of Maryland. So you can get a completely different culture by
Mhm.
hopping on the metro and going a few stops, or by getting in the car going up 20 minutes in any direction.
Let me speak to that actually, because I forgot a couple of things. Like when it comes to Laurel, 4 counties, people don't realize that it's four
Oh,
girls.
right.
I'm Pretty Girl County. I'm from there, right? But there's Montgomery County,
Yeah.
there's Anne Arundel County, right? And there's Howard County.
Right.
And like as I've been like just paying attention to like the different, I don't want to say energies, but just like the different cultures that you can just tell the money brings, right? Montgomery County of Laurel, it's like that's where I feel like Fairwood, there's an ice skating rink
Mm.
just like created, like because it's like a recreate, like Montgomery County, they really pride recreation and like creativity, right? Howard County, they really pride recreation, but it's like that's the money side as well. Um, on Arundel side, that's Fort Meade base, right?
Okay.
So there's just like a level of the fall off. I don't want to say the fall off of structure, but it's like you realize it's like there's just service workers who have like, I don't want to say a limited way of thinking, but they just seem very hardworking on that side. Like it's just industrial,
Yeah.
the side of Laurel. that's in Anne Arundel County, right? And Pretty Girl County, right? We do have some it's like we have some questionable, but we have some reinvention, right? Because it's like if you ever pay attention to a college, especially at HBCU, it's usually in the ghetto. It's usually a little bit in the hood, right? It's on the land that was the most affordable for a state to make this a whole enterprise, right? And that's where reinvention happens under pressure at the end of the day. So you are surrounded by factors of pressure in addition to that. And when you talk about the cultures and just like the way that the money flows, and especially when you talk about the transplants, I don't think people realize that transplants stay after every presidential election, right? But on top of that, when you talk to a lot of Black people who are not from here, a lot of them say they moved to this area because this is where like the most educated, like Black, but like confident in their Blackness
Yeah.
live. Like they just wanted more Black people who were just, whether they came from PWI agency or what. Uh it's like a very much a stewardship of confident in your Blackness happening in the DMV,
Right.
right? That makes it like a very unique place to live for skin folk. So yeah.
Very much so. It's like, yes, you have, if we're speaking on DC, and it's actually a very small population, it's just very visible, but that whole leading with what do you do? I'm asking what you do before I even ask what your name is and all that shit. Like, but the beauty is you can easily escape that. Like, I know it exists, but I haven't experienced it in I don't know how long because I'm in a different environment. We in the artist environment.
In a very intentionally curated
Yeah,
environment.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So what maybe there. How did you find yourself in in seeing that the arts was a way to for you to get comfortable and find yourself and be yourself, and talk about this local area and even its shit and the problems. We can get into that if that exists too.
Ooh, there are both on some. There's some on both. So the funny thing about my creative journey, it only started 2 years ago,
Mm,
right? It started 2 years ago when there's just the structure of work as we know it. It just wasn't. It wasn't conducive to my existence, my being. I've been a person who I've realizing has very much been authentic in herself longer than she's understood what it is,
mm,
because I was the person who yearbooks was just like never change. Like for 4 years consistently, it was like never change, never change, never change, never change. There's a whole lot of never changes. And I'm over here like, I gotta grow up. What y'all talking about? Having no idea that they're speaking to like my authenticity and
right.
my like genuine nature, right? Because so many people were losing their grips on
Yeah.
that. And now we're also in an era, I think in your 20s, what they don't let you know because they didn't know to write it down. They didn't know to tell us. It's just fucking crazy. I feel like this 20s is our cocoon years,
Mm,
right? This is where you figure out what type of butterfly you blossom into,
right.
right? And because some of these blossoms are moths, some of these butterflies are moths. And then you realize that when it comes to the cocoon years, right? That it's like, oh, I gotta go reclaim that version. I don't know I was doing something right when I was a kid because it led me this far. I need to go tap back into that version of myself so that I'm not like my 50-year-old aunt or my 50-year-old mom or my midlife crisis. Because if you notice, there's less midlife crisis and more quarter life crisis. I think I've clocked a little bit. Like I don't got no data on it, but I feel like I've noticed more quarter life crisis, especially with the internet age, when it's like you're just having this comparison model of a lot of motherfuckers are doing shit by their 20s, right? And then you also realize, oh, some people are just walking. When you hit like, oh, they're just walking in their purpose, then you'd be like, okay, let me go find my purpose if you're strong and courageous enough, right? No matter what it takes, because it could take a long time to
Right.
like dream that hard. Because they tell us to dream up until around middle school,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then they tell you, okay,
Perform.
make it a goal. And it's like, but is it my goal or is it society's goal?
Right.
Right. So then that confusion starts getting compounded. You go to school for potentially a goal that you actually don't give a fuck about. right? So now you don't understand fully why you like hate the career that you've built for yourself that you're in, right? There's just like all these things, but I've always been authentic to myself. So when there's a way of like something didn't feel right, and I was just like, I knew I have work ethic. Like there was just certain things that to me were just like unmistakable. Like I know I have work ethic. I literally started questioning if I had ambition, right? During my unemployment stage, because it's just like I knew I wanted certain comforts in life. I'm still Nigerian now. Like people don't understand it, but it's like there's a way that we want to be comfortable because our parents raised us to be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't realize that's like processes. Like these are like thriving processes that have been set in place that you have to be disciplined and consistent with,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, ooh, I mean, talking so much, I'll be losing track of my own points sometimes. Authenticity. Yes, you're
Right.
talking about we talk about authenticity and like maintaining that.
That
Um,
even that point, if you got to go, but even that point that you just made, like, do you see when they say like the structures in place, is that a good thing? And it's like, okay, I can follow it, or is that like more constrictive? And it's like we're back to those big four, those big five.
I think that when rules are placed to make things more efficient as to actually help people, a lot of things are said to help people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I really feel like the structures that we live in are like actual demons. After I watched one TikTok that like really was like, if you really think about it, like we follow a ritual and it takes rituals to like evoke demons and stuff like that. It's like we follow a certain ritual, whether it makes us feel good or not, if we're cognizant enough. I don't drink coffee, for example. I'm gonna prioritize getting sleep, right? Um, I've had to be really intentional, especially after my unemployment phases, and realizing where I have a chance at fitting and where I don't fit at all, where
Right.
I'm too a disruption to the system,
Mm-hmm.
right? As opposed to a welcome disruption to the system. Like I had to learn how to find flows that worked with me as opposed to against me.
Right.
And that just
Big.
stemmed from me being like, life shouldn't be this hard. I just had this belief that life shouldn't be this hard. There's a certain level of reality that I have no issue dealing with. I have no issue with work, right? I have an issue with obligation, which even goes back to the post that you were liking like today, where it's like, oh, I woke up today and realized no matter how much sleep I get, I don't want to go to work. I enjoy going to my job and having another chance to try to impact some children,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't care for the obligation of my grad school work, where it's like, if you want me to meet this box and you don't give me the questions to answer it, because I'm a very intelligent person, like if you don't give me the tools, and there's a way that I had to understand in the assignment that our professor gave us. He hasn't given us all the tools because in reality, we're honestly not going to get all the tools. So we need to see how creative we are. Then he will give us the tools on the back end,
Mm-hmm.
right? He wants to see how far we'll get without the tools. There's a way that I've just been like really learning to process like life so that when it comes to like authenticity, I'm learning to just really trust myself more than I have before. Like I'm literally still building my intuition. As confident as I am, I'm still learning to build my intuition and know when shit will work, where shit will work, how shit will work. Like I'm still building my processes of intuition.
Right.
And so I definitely see it. I can definitely tell that tapping into creativity is literally what got me this far, because I was stagnant for years without understanding why the consistency and the discipline wasn't paying it off,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just to learn that, oh, I wasn't walking in my purpose,
Right.
right? And that's where the creativity started just tapping in. And it's just like things just blossomed. Like I literally can't say I took one improv class. Then I started subbing. Next thing you know, I'm picking up trying to teach theater after hours to children and stuff. I'm just like, let me just go work with kids again, right? And mind you, I'm trying things. I'm just like, the last time I talked to this job, they weren't fucking with me, right? Why is it the timing working now? And like God like placing these questions on me to really try to get the answer. And honestly, I have been answering like those questions, and I've been answering them quicker and quicker and quicker.
Nice.
So that it's just like, oh, creativity has been a catalyst. Just like when they tell the children, allow children to be bored because these children don't have original thought anymore the way they used to. Creativity is just as much as a muscle as consistency and discipline is.
Yeah. 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 And it's probably they're not and these aren't I don't have that correct term, but they're not all completely separate terms. Like you can be creative, or you can be disciplined, or you can be
They're not isolated. They literally flow. They have a synergy with the, they actually work best.
mutually exclusive. That's what
They're
I,
not mutually
I was like,
exclusive.
yeah.
Bring the Venn diagram out. You gotta bring that term.
That's exactly what it was. So it's like, no, that was powerful though. That very, yes, creativity has its place, which is why everybody can't do it. It's so fascinating. Just something as simple as some of the best, most successful corporate America people will die if you ask them to speak publicly. Like not even perform, not even spit 16 bars, not even just talk out loud.
I didn't know. It wasn't until I started getting into the spoken word side of it, because in my head, I was just like, I know I have to be careful about trying to make money off of things that I love, right? I had learned that rule before. So I was just like, okay, let me dabble and see where it goes. But it's so funny how someone told me, I think it was Nerd. I think Nerd told me not only do I have a lot of stage presence, but that like one of the number one fears, especially I guess in America,
Yeah.
is like public speaking, right? And I was like wondering about that because I wouldn't even consider myself necessarily a public speaker up until I realized I'm always the person who wants to like change. Like I'm not an attention whore, but I'm a credit whore. Like I want my credit. I want to coin a term. I want my credit. I want someone I want my recognition
Yeah.
to an extent. I had to learn to like let go of that because it's not going to always come, obviously,
Mm.
especially when you spit in truth. But it's like, I definitely have a deep attachment to recognition because I guess this is part of my trauma response that I haven't always been recognized accurately, effectively, and for like just the human value. And it's crazy enough, when I get nonchalant about wanting that recognition, that's exactly when people are attributing success to me. And I'm just like,
Right.
it's always when I don't fucking care no more that I'm
Right.
getting what I fucking wanted for years.
Yeah.
Okay, got it, noted.
Yeah. Even you're clearly, these are two different spectrums. You are a Black African woman, and then Eminem had an album that just came out the day before we recorded, but he literally, that was track one. When I stopped giving a fuck, that's when I started to celibate. And it's like it's so real. That's how it happens. Like in a lot of people's cases, it's like what you don't. It's almost like a version of first shall be last, last shall be. Like when you don't spend so much time thirsty for it, then the universe, is what we move
The
in.
world and the universe does not reward desperation.
That's
It doesn't.
We'll run that back for the people. Right. It'll rewind.
You said thirsty? It doesn't reward desperation. It does not. It's a valid feeling, but the world be like, calm down. I don't owe you shit.
Right.
For real.
Right.
You think that I owe you something, but I don't owe you shit. And it is coming out of like feeling like owed to something. And as soon as I stop, because sometimes there's a difference between owed and deserving, right? That I'm even starting to learn. There's a lot of these words that are just used and thrown and conflated as synonyms, but it's like it was a discussion in one of my classes, the difference between bias and preference. And I'm like, there's a difference there. And if you don't know the difference, I'm sorry for the relationships that are suffer. I'm sorry for the way that your perspective will suffer. Because if you don't clock that there's a difference between nice and kind. Nice is performative. Kind is genuine. It's going to disappoint some people actually sometimes too. So when it comes to like really looking at these words and the ways that they're used and fun and stuff like that, it's like very interesting because this teaching program is also teaching me how unreflective a lot of adults are. That's part of why people are regurgitating trauma to themselves, to other people, right? It's like the cycle continues because you haven't reflected and put in place, is this a bad habit? One question, right? You haven't put in place, why do I do this bad habit? Right? You haven't put in place, where can I start stopping this bad habit? Right? And it's like, do I want to stop this bad habit?
Right.
It's like there's a reflection process that's needed
Hmm.
to give a shit at the end of the day for the things of worth meaning. But it's like life be life in. That's all I
It's
got.
even in that to that same point, like what are the environments that's gonna bring the best of this or the worst of this? We have when we are worried too much about trying to do what everybody else did, but what everybody else does it. Well, if an alcoholic can't just be out where I can be out at 3 o'clock, you know what I mean, and around a bar, like or at any point, at any time. So it's like if you part of that whole self acknowledgement is being okay with realizing like, hey, this is a vulnerable situation, so I should avoid it, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know,
Mhm.
even that is a thing I see people struggle with. So now you did the nice and kind breakdown. I appreciate that. That's actually a topic I've been meaning to touch on myself. So that's going to be interesting, you know, to go there. But the bias versus preference, can you give that breakdown in case somebody doesn't know the difference?
That was a little bit more difficult
Hmm.
because I really love the definition that they gave in my class, but I am terrible at taking notes. Like I have to embody the lesson.
Yeah.
And so as I prioritize that, I'm one of those, I'm a little unicorn, I feel like, where it's just like it is hard to catch me in person. Like I literally get told that a lot about myself sometimes. So
Hmm.
when it even comes down to like remembering things, is because I'm gonna say it like this: when it comes to bias and preference, I'm still learning to synthesize it in a very succinct way.
Hmm.
Because I get told a lot that I'm talking, and I know how easy it is to lose a train of thoughts. So I actually do strive to like break things down as simply as possible. So
Gotcha.
let me go see what things are bias.
Okay, I'm gonna throw
And
out what I think, and you can play off of that. So preference, I think, is more of the healthy one, where it's just like this is what I like, and I think bias becomes a problem when opinion turns into
yes,
judgment. Yeah, so it's
yes,
like this is the right thing. What I'm doing is the right thing. What y'all doing, y'all wilding. Versus this is what I.
yes. Okay, yes, thank you. No, that genuinely helps because preference is safe in one's authenticity,
Mhm.
right? Bias harms others,
Mm.
right? Like it just harms. One is safe, one is not. You can prefer pineapple on pizza or not, right? Now, if you start preferring light skins over dark skins, that's about to create an issue of how you judge and treat and why you are interacting with people the way that you are. And also you're harming yourself, because the saddest part to me when it came to like race studies and like queer studies, and when it comes to like teaching people like why people should give a shit, started being like when they had to take this selfish turn of like, when you limit your perspective of the world, you ultimately hurt yourself first, more like foremost. Like these racist people down in the South, when they vote against policies against Black people that actually help them more
Right,
than it helps Black people, it's
right.
like you are literally harming yourself. To me, it's so sad that I had to get, but that also shows you altruism doesn't work
Mm,
the way that people think about it.
mm.
There's a selfishness within altruism that is necessary for it to be effective. You have to have a balancing tightrope act of being selfless
Hmm.
and selfish. It's
Yes,
an assignment.
yes. Great
It's
point.
the way it's the way you do it. It's the
We
way you
try
do
to
it, how
make.
you do it, when you do it.
Yep.
It's that,
We try.
right?
Yep.
That's the difference between
We,
kind and nice,
we try
right?
to make selfish another four, like it's one of the four-letter words. We try to make it a slur, and it's like it really isn't. It really is another one of those words that are being the bastardized the definition, and only that one definition. Sorry.
Because I grew up with my dad literally calling me selfish all the time, just to find out in adulthood, no, actually, like you were more selfish for whatever performative Nigerian scripts and ideology that you have ingrained in your head. Like, actually, like you're the one who is wild for thinking that I should operate, navigate, and move my life and my autonomy and my agency in my body for the whims of what you think, right? Even if you think it's what's best for me, because that's usually the issue also with a lot of this hegemony is you deciding what's best for me is crazy. Fucking crazy. That's the way the boilerplate it down as a society, as a parent, like this, that, and the third. It's like you deciding what's best for me before I even get to figure out who the fuck I am
Right.
is beyond.
Right.
Or before you even get to know me and what I actually need.
Right.
Beyond.
Right. No, that's a great point. I just okay, and I don't think no, my parents didn't do it, but it shows. I'm your parent, and I know what's best for you. No,
Are
out
you
of
sure?
relative to everybody else, I didn't hear that part. Was that part silent, or you just know? Because the interesting on that one is like due to the necessity of all the hard work and multiple hours, they're not even really spending, enough time, unfortunately, with their child. So it's like, why do you even feel?
On top of that, Twitch streamers making bread. Playing fucking
Get into
games,
it.
making bread. Doing fucking makeup, making bread, right? These very simple joys within a person can make so much bread and create a whole livelihood. People out here just really making content,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And it's like what was playing around on the MySpace algorithm, niggas
right.
didn't even know that they was learning how to code.
Yep,
Like, bro, it's like the simple brain blast of that. So now that and like that's how they deconstruct things when it comes to STEAM, when it comes to creativity. If you find yourself just doing a doodle because you enjoy it and it also helps you learn,
yeah,
it helps you just you be you, right? And they was telling us not to do that. Meanwhile, they need these damn doodles when it comes to this graphic design.
right,
Like you need and let you be doodling on your paper. Now you know how to doodle on a Padlet, right? And it's becoming a whole ad campaign,
hmm,
right? Like all these things that they said, oh, these ain't gonna make you no money. The saddest part is being a service worker ain't gonna make you no damn bread. Like,
right,
if we really honest, all the jobs that they told us, oh, do this, this, and the
right.
third, to the point that the millennials be like, we learned from our parents. We learned that one when it comes to our
That
learning
didn't
our
work.
parents. If my kid wants to do this, I'm gonna see how long this shit lasts before I attach something else or they find something else that they want to get really
Right,
good at. So
right,
that also that's how a child feels like they're capable at complete accomplishing anything. Like when their joy is just supported, improv principle.
right.
So that's important.
I hope like genuinely that this isn't insulting to indigenous people, but that phrase "too many Indians, too many chiefs, not enough Indians" is what we have to worry about. Like there's a lot of teetering and tottering, and I'm just gonna speak for our community. I'm sure it happens elsewhere, but I don't know, right? So like we went too far to like yes get all these tech jobs, but it's like for those who have I'm sorry, tech the lawyer, doctor, engineer for those who have that propensity, have that interest, sure, go that way. But we, like you said, we need the other at parts of it. I mean, if I'm
You need someone to go build the freaking roads.
that you want, or
You
so
need some pothole fixers, man,
to
because there's a
get
lot of
this,
potholes.
to get the clothing together, to make the design for what then needs to, get mass produced or whatever
Especially
you
if you
do.
want to do it sustainably and like ethically,
Right,
right?
right.
Especially if you want to do it
That's a
ethically.
problem. That's a problem. That's a problem.
You ain't
Do
gonna do
they
that
want
right
to
now.
do it?
You ain't gonna do that right now.
Do they
I can
want to
barely
do
You ain't
it?
gonna do that right now though.
That right, cause oh, I hate when I started realizing that the calls coming from inside the house. When I found out that if you black people could become white people tomorrow, you would push that button so fast. They would do.
Cause
They would sit
don't
right
get
in
into
the
the
same
mean
seat.
girl, don't get into the mean girl brunches and the mean girl entrepreneurship like experiences that be in some symposium, that be in some resort. They over here charging people like 10 bands saying it's education, saying it's a whole grad program in like 3 days more or less, 10
Right,
bands
right,
for an experience. You better know what the fuck. And honestly, it'd be just dick riding.
Yeah.
It'd be just foot riding and dick riding, in my
It's
opinion.
it's it's almost I've learned on that situation to like even with relationships that flamed out because that person was overly selfish, and I actually wasn't selfish enough. I wasn't advocating for myself. But and yeah, there were faults there, but I also try to learn from a little bit of that and try to take something from it and apply it in like a progressive way. To their point, like what did like I am there's a little bit of me that's impressed that they got an entire adult to be hanging on their
To
titty like that. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? And to go find the $10,000. You know what I mean? To go do this thing and think it's really gonna, do something for them. So it's like it's wild, it's crazy, and then
it's
also
a point
they
of
fell out.
desperation. It's like
Yeah.
you literally have to find a certain type of emotional profile who doesn't know their worth yet.
Right.
So they will kowtow because they literally don't realize that they might be getting taken advantage of, right? Like I've worked at a creative agency where I clocked because I've been through my version of a black nonprofit or like a black enterprise where they using their own, right?
Hmm.
And they talk
Hmm.
about I'm giving out jobs. You sound like fucking
You sound
you
like
sound
them.
like you sound
Yeah.
like yeah, you
Like
sound like
they just got a tan, or they just got the the skin darker. They're like, you're them.
yes, like you sound like literally them. Slavery gave people work skills. Like
Right,
you
right,
sound like them. And when you don't reflect and realize you sound like them, you're
mhm,
perpetuating it,
right.
right? And so then it's like becomes you clearly didn't know ethics. You clearly didn't know where to put those stopping gaps in place so that you're actually meeting someone halfway or you're leaving someone behind that you realize I'm gonna just take advantage of you because it's not gonna work out. And honestly, that's why I also think of like corporations and shit as demons because to some extent they are knowingly taking advantage of other people.
Mhm,
They know.
mhm.
They be knowing.
Oh,
Subconsciously, they know. Consciously, they try to act like they don't fucking know. And that's you know what I was saying? That I just thought of in this conversation. Reflection is when you stitch subconscious to conscious.
ooh, ooh. I'm glad this is
Because
recorded.
people
I
try
had to check
to
it quick. I had to check this real quick. Yeah, cause we go. Yeah, that one gonna get a clip for sure. That's that because
like
I need to
subconscious.
yeah. Some of these are some gems I gotta make sure to replay. To like that was
Yeah,
fire.
like you gotta reflect to see could that have gone better?
Hmm.
You gotta reflect to see was I kind and how even prioritizing that as a question is important
Right,
because people are prioritizing being kind in
right,
their interactions.
right,
Was that kind, whether they knew it or not, was I kind? Could I have been kinder there?
right,
Right? Or
right.
was I kind enough? And that's cool,
Hmm.
right? People aren't reflecting,
Hmm.
right? And so they're just assuming that, oh, they have these amazing intentions. I had a friend who would say intent, no impact over intent, right? I now have formulated a phrase, especially from teaching, it's intent. I don't want to say versus. I need to find a word that goes there, but it should be, oh, intent in tandem with impact. That's the word I think I would use. Like,
Right.
are you on synergy? Are you on yin and yang when you do it? Are you on complementary? Like y'all helping each other out,
Nice,
right?
nice. Both
And
compliments.
y'all should be it should be collaborative,
Right.
even those dynamic. A lot of things are really about striving for balance as opposed to a competition over because let's say you focus too much on your impact, then you might not do anything. You focus too much on your intent, you're accidentally inadvertently harming people inadvertently to a degree
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh
because
my God! Because of the I didn't mean to as
or I didn't ask you for that and
yeah,
shit like
right, as the immunity pill. Like, okay, great, that can be true. And I think even you had said it a long time ago. Like, it's okay. Like, yeah, it was something about yeah, the world does not owe you nothing, and it's a valid feeling, and that's okay. But that valid feeling does not now that does not mean okay, so we must move based on it. It could still not be correct, or it could still be, correctional behavior. Like that. That's the one that's very missing. Please go.
It reminded me something about even when it comes to like teaching. There's a very great phrase that they said earlier this week that I was just like, ooh, people were saying, as my friend said, you have to have a bias towards better. You have to have a
All
preference
right.
towards better,
All right.
right? Because people have a preference with status quo. This is fine. This is get the job done. No, it's not okay.
Yeah.
But it's like, or it's like, this is fine, or it's down, right? Like, this ain't shit, but life is life. No, you don't have to accept that.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Do you have a bias towards the giving out of your overflow? Do you have bias towards the glass being half full as opposed to half empty?
Hmm.
Like understanding that there's more versus there's enough.
Right.
Like, because enough sometimes is necessary, right? Like you did your best,
Right.
enough,
Right.
and then up, but not like you did your best down, because
Right.
that's where I didn't mean to comes from.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow. Wow. Yeah.
Ooh,
We.
think of a teacher exercise. I gotta go,
Oh yeah. No,
but
you wild. You're wilding as a compliment. Like you've been flowing right now. It's great. It's wild. It's amazing. So, but yes, we definitely live. Uh, we as Black people know how to function in survival. Live in survival mode. We don't know when to. That's not necessary. And yeah, like you said, it's just the whole crabs in a barrel. Like it's just like you said. Like all there is just enough at best. As if there's not abundance out there. And but it's not necessarily just to fully harp on people. There's some good reasons why that's the case. Like there's
yes,
systemically there are some good damn reasons.
very valid
You
reasons.
know what I mean? It's not all laziness or they got you. Like no, they were working hard.
Mhm,
So they should have a little bit, of
mhm,
success with this. But now it is our responsibility together to
mhm.
continue to work. To work
I
against
would
that.
even say that I have a rating scale when it comes to adults, right?
Hmm.
Are you fine with the status quo? You're a decent person, right? And this applies to parents too. If you have an adult or an individual in your life who is biased towards better, who just wants better for you, thus even starts building better for themselves so that by the time you're there, you have better, right? If you are inclined towards wanting better, right? I feel like that should be the marker of if you're a great person, good person, decent person, to fair. I'm gonna just say fair because we're not gonna make it. We're not gonna. I'm gonna just use the textbook definition of how they was doing things, right? Because fair point, but it's like, do you want to be fair or do you want to be the ideal? The ideal can't exist, right?
Right.
People don't realize you could turn an idea into a dream all the time. Like we have fucking electronic cars now. The ideal is possible.
Right.
It's more so that what are you willing to do to make it? Because you'd be, I won't even call you lazy, but you'd be more honest to just admit you don't feel like putting in that work for
Yeah.
whatever you are.
That's
But don't
okay.
try to make it seem like it's so unfathomable. Niggas is talking on phones.
Right.
Like there was a generation where you had to link up on a horse.
Right.
If you wanted to chat with somebody, you had
Right.
to write that letter,
Yeah.
right?
Send it to a pigeon, have them fly over. Right. Like,
Now we have whole FaceTimes.
yes. Yes. No, that's it. Right. Yeah. And that comes from the dreamers, from the ones that have an idea, and pretty much all of them, even the ones that ain't shit now. Like Zuckerberg, when he came up, like very few people felt like, what are you talking about? This doesn't make sense. Now look, he's a whole shitty organization. I hate
He
them. But anyway,
capitalized
he did
networking.
his thing.
Networking is important because we are social creatures. He capitalized the fuck out
Yeah,
of
he
that.
did.
Him and Bezos. I don't even like how Bezos' last name means kisses in Spanish
That's
because it's like,
crazy.
damn, you kissed the devil, didn't you? Because your
Uh,
wife really don't fuck with you.
right.
She didn't really give all that money, alimony out, alimony damn near, to other fucking organizations.
That's hilarious.
To me, that really makes me sad. So I'm over here looking at her like, I don't even want to know what she's seen.
Right.
I don't even want to know what made her just be like, let me divorce this man because I
Right.
can't stomach it. Like, I'm scared.
Right.
Because it's like maybe she wasn't fine and we didn't know it, but for her to just like cut the cord,
Right.
she deserves a TED talk. I want to know. She deserves an expose. And I'm starting to feel. Actually, let me not talk about too many of these big names because I'll be having some thoughts. Like, for example, Oprah and Tyler Perry. I'll be like,
oh. You know, it worked for them. It worked for them that their major adversary was Monique, and she's not. She got her own problems. Like, if it was like a beloved person, then they'd be in trouble. But Monique made herself such a villain, like an anti-hero. You know what I mean? That it's like, even when you're making points, it's kind of hard for us. You know,
people
what I
to take you as
mean?
serious because I do believe her. The same
Yeah.
thing with Cat Williams, right? To me, it's like there's just certain entities where it's just like, damn, you really. It sucks when your credibility, when you invalidate your own self because of your problems, because shit like that is teaching me. I'm like, damn, you got to really hold your square, as long as you can, because the devil's looking to invalidate and knock you the fuck off, right? If you give them an opportunity. And so it's like, because the devil might be gender neutral. I be thinking God's gender neutral, but that's a different conversation for a different day.
So, what all that keeps going into, normally, when I'm doing, you know, the wrap up side of things, it's what's the future, and I am gonna ask you that, but I'm actually gonna start with, like, you need to start a podcast for real. That's why this piece, you have literally made, you've for another time, like 5 episodes, you've made a statement that should be about 4 more. Like, yeah, I'm being, you know, I appreciate what you're giving to this side, but like, nah, this needs to not be the last time that you're sharing the experiences and putting the thoughts together and things like that. What where do you, because I remember that the post that started this all, like, podcast mentioned it.
We still got to come back. I'm willing to come back because I've really been meaning to address that. I've been excited to address that topic. It's such a necessary topic, especially when you potentially could clip what we were talking about when it comes to Zuckerberg, social networking, and how that plays a role into amateur normativity, because it's not the absence of socializing. It's just the assignment of how you prioritize the relationships in your life, right? But I would say what comes for me next is this teaching grad program. This teaching improv to me is the seed of creativity because you literally just make a choice.
Right.
Like, you literally just make a choice. You just run with the choice, and you don't think too much about if it's going to work or not, but you want to at least intend for it to build off of what came before you or what you want to start, right? That is improv, what you want to grow or what you want to start. It is like literally nature with your actions, right? So it is a seed. It is a seed to creativity, right? Wanting something so bad that you stitch whatever you got to stitch and you grow whatever you got to grow, right? To make shit shake, right? To me, what's next is teaching, because that actually flows into the podcast. I don't want to talk too much on that, but that literally lesson planning alone, the way my mind is like quickening its pace, right? The ways that I've had a lot of conversations with different types of people in life, to the point that I'm the type of person, I don't read for real. Like, I hold conversations with people. I consume a lot of content. When I read, I'm reading Instagram posts because they're quicker, but it's a certain algorithm that I have curated of my own authenticity, right? And I might read, I have to read like podcasts, closed captions, so that I'm not wasting time rewinding, making sure I'm processing, understanding what they're saying. If I read, the only little 2 things that I've literally find the time to read are that, a menu for my brunch, right? Because you still got to enjoy yourself. right? You got to enjoy the specifications. Maybe you into makeup. You got to read the product reviews on certain shit. But I hate research to an extent, right? And then because especially if they're telling me something that I already discovered through a conversation, right? Sometimes people think reading is faster. The way that I interact and I practice developing a vocabulary, I'll like, oh, that's another third purpose and function for me when it comes to reading, to develop a vocabulary, right? To develop the not only the talking develops the understanding for the experiences. Reading, especially if someone has done research on it, identifies the experiences or coins a term or coins a word for that experience, right? And so that's when I will find myself reading, but it's literally usually as much as a Google lookup, 1, 2 articles just to verify, okay, am I crazy from how I'm thinking about this, right? And then I proceed. I don't like read in the nature of reading. It's not even that I don't want to. I read very functionally for information, but to enjoy the dialogue that I'm having or the way that my mind expands, I talk to people and see where they're at. I talk to people to see what they can input that I don't already know, right? Like I am a lifelong learner through the dialogues, the perspectives, whether I um and like I was going to talk about experiences, and you find that people, when it's personalized or when it's like a personalized journey, it just hits different. It sounds like care, it sounds like intention. Because the funny thing is, I've been like, I'm gonna start studying the number one, like 1 of 1 and stuff like that, because I was realizing in my program, someone was asking like how to demonstrate tolerance with our PLC mentor or whatever like that. And there's a way that I was just like, and I'm just thinking about things, don't want to do what I'm doing right now. And I just realized one, actually, an example of tolerance. One knows what it is, right? That's why they call God oneness all the time. But one knows what it is when it's whole and allows another number to act and move and operate in its own authenticity, right? And so when someone says they're 1 of 1, it's like you literally just multiply itself by itself, right? And it gets itself, right? And it's like in the oneness of one, another number can be the oneness of its number, like the authenticity of its number, the whole of its number. And I just found that like so interesting to relate to because people don't realize that when you synthesize all the disciplines together, life starts making sense. Like psychology started making sense to me when I low key applied math logic to relationships, right? Especially when it's like they was doing like when the teachers was doing like I don't want to call it hood math, but they was just doing like black math, and it was just making sense. Like one pretty parent, one ugly parent can still make like when they was doing shit like that. I was like, and people are like, no, but why does that still like add the fuck up? It's
Right.
how math like really can explain dynamics and relationship dynamics that
Right.
people aren't, but it takes reflection to get there.
Right. That's a fact.
It's still that's that reflection. So the point of the question, because I love a tangent clearly. Next is this teaching program. I gave an example for how my brain is already expanding and how I'm quicker with it, right? Right. Like up next for the next 4 years is this teaching program because I actually have a high suspicion that it will help me knock these podcasts out because I believe in like doing things sustainably. Once I start something, I don't want to like have to stop. Like I get attached to my own endeavors,
Right.
right? So it's like if I don't even think that I can be sustainable in something, I won't start it, especially because I already the number of times someone's told me you have to start a podcast, I'm like, oh, people are going to rely on it, but I need to make sure I'm good so that it's coming out of a place of overflow as opposed to coming out of a selfish and inner child response of wanting to be recognized, right? I also, that's the other thing. Like, I have to make sure I do it in a proper process, in a proper way, not only so that it's sustainable, but it doesn't necessarily harm others. And it's like, I can just be consistent for like all the right reasons, as opposed to, just getting it out there because I know people need it. And I'm not withholding, trust me, because I've made some attempts already. But I can tell that when it comes to heart posture and positioning, that shit is so fucking important. And it's like, I learned so much in my teaching practice that has every intention of being funneled, but I also know that I have to get good at something to funnel a new venture so that I'm not just scaffolding two completely unknown ventures.
Okay.
But the beautiful thing about teaching is it's going to teach because I've done some digital marketing, some content creation. I already have an idea and pick up on pattern recognition. Thank you, math, right? But there's this element of like, I need to learn how to lesson plan so that I know how to episode plan, and we can like I can really stick to a particular topic,
Right.
right? We came in here for one topic.
We went up.
Imagine just me and my thoughts flowing by myself.
And you know what would also be fire, like in a just theoretically, if you know or remember that when you're recording episode 7, that you made a point in episode 2 and can call back to it and bring it, like that would be just so fire to have
I do
already
that
done that.
often.
Yeah.
I literally was doing that in pieces and periods and being like, oh, that's when that clicked. That's when
Mhm.
that clicked. That's when what you're saying clicked. Right. I had someone tell me within my program, oh, you have like a really amazing, like, well, not amazing, but they say you have like a really good or strong gift of being able to actively listen as well as actively
Process.
actively dialogue, actively process. And that's the thing about being a kinesthetic learner. But in its oneness, it's like if it's not in the right energy, it don't work actually.
Mm,
It also doesn't work. Someone has to understand that me talking is me processing to basically get on board with where I'm trying to go.
right.
But if you don't fuck with how I do shit, because I don't do shit socialized at all. Because actually, there's a very important question that I wanted to answer that I didn't answer in full, right? Because I
Right.
do always strive for that. You asked me at one point how like my authenticity plays a role, how my creativity plays a role, and there's a way that shit. Did I lose my train of thought? No, bro. And it was so necessary and so relevant to say.
Yeah.
If I remember it within the next 5 minutes before you
Right.
tap
We will
off,
literally we will
uh,
literally spend the block on it. So it's all good. It's like, and this is why this is why you have a podcast. And you're absolutely right. This is and I have no problem that the intended. I feel, sometimes things are divine. Like I don't it's not like this was a wasted conversation, right? So that original topic, we can just come back. You know what I mean? To that, it's really that simple. I definitely plenty. There was plenty. I got, even if don't nobody else, I can appreciate, and it
this was
won't
more
be.
of the intro into me being the recurring,
Yeah, I mean,
recurring
hey,
person,
listen,
right?
hey, listen. That can definitely be that. So, so you wanna, how can people keep in touch with you in the meantime? How can they contact you or stay in touch with what you do?
If someone wants to stay in touch, right? Right now, the platform to stay in touch with me on, and most likely, I'm gonna just have, if it's an interesting conversation, I'm gonna tap into it. And even still, because of the way the grad school program is set up, I'm in fucking grad school. Like I really started this shit, but I didn't process I was in grad school for like a weekend. I'm like, oh, this homework is homeworking. What the fuck did I sign up for? Right? The
Yeah,
account to follow me on, because I've reduced a lot of, I don't want to say distractions because it's not it, but it's more so that it's not the time. So I've reduced a lot of my time assignments, and so the account to follow me on is Juan the Sagittarius, and that is spelled WANTHESAGG, the number 3, terrorist, TERRORIST. Again,
yeah.
WANTHESAGG3ITERRORIST,
Oh,
right? And so if someone wants to keep up with me on there, that is the account to do it. Um, my 24-hour story is like Vegas. Like what you see in that 24-hour story, don't feel the need to talk about too much, right? If you want to have a dialogue with me, say something, because I actually love conversation, but that's the issue. I love conversation, right? So chime in over there. I periodically post because I actually don't care for a strong internet presence simply because it's not even that once it's out there, it turns into something else. It's a lot of the fact that I used to have a slight dependency, or I don't want to call it dependency, I don't want to call it addiction either, but I was too just tapped into social media and it's very easily distractible because I most likely have ADHD, y'all, right? So it takes me off course too much, is what I would say,
Gotcha.
right? And it takes me off course too much. And there's things that I do have to like meet deadlines. Like I'm prioritizing in this life, like in this stage of my life, meeting deadlines. So I be on there, I do be active. Don't take it personal if I don't respond. I'm also a
Please.
very asynchronous person. You see how this conversation flowed,
Right.
right? So I hop skip and it's not going to be for everybody.
Right.
So the way that I even tap into conversations, right? I tap into them when I can. I tap into them when they're very, very interesting and I can speak on it readily. It's more about like a quick pace, a little bit for me, but it's not for like not wanting to say something. It's more so that I'm literally in a time of my life where I gotta prioritize me so that I can go prioritize y'all again,
Right.
right? Like it's literally because I literally had to. My kids was like, "Why can't you stay the full day?" And I'm like, "Y'all, I gotta go learn to be a better teacher so that like y'all aren't the only one getting this good teaching, but I can be a great teacher to like as many kids as just like you guys. Like I'm
Right.
gonna be a better teacher to y'all, and I'm gonna be a better teacher to like other people."
For it. No, that's fire. So don't worry, y'all. Her IG handle will be in liner notes. I'm actually probably going to put it over the screen when you were spelling it and all that. But like, yeah, definitely. I don't doubt at all that there's somebody who is, intrigued by your, what you have to offer and then how, like who you are, who you are just in general. So yeah, that podcast, in your time, but it definitely needs to happen, and for sure there will be there's a reason to have you back as a guest, in the future. So we'll figure that out. But despite, I always wanted, just in case, but despite so many gems that you've already dropped, like, did you want to leave a parting note? I'll give mine. When you gave your kind of disclaimer, I'll call it, as far as like, the asynchronous responses and things like that. I really want us, again, as adults, to stop having so much, I'm putting so much obligation on others in the social media world. I really want, like, I shouldn't be preparing to apologize that when I got back to a DM. You know what I mean?
I be telling my friends, stop saying sorry to me, especially because I know I be looking for in-depth, long response. I just have to tell a friend that again, like, yo, stop saying sorry to me. You literally get back to me and prioritize getting back to me as quickly. Like, I literally know that you will get back to me when you
Yeah,
can. Like, I know that. You
yeah,
do not have to say sorry because this should be a place of comfort. And
right.
especially in friendships and certain dynamics, it should be organic, right? We should not be rushing to commune with people. We should just be feeling comfortable. Like they're gonna be there if they fuck with me. And that's it. Like it really should be boiled down. And it's not even that we don't fuck with y'all. Everyone's a human. Everyone has time. Think about those people. That's the main thing. Not enough people think about, but God forces me to think about when I be talking out the side of my neck, and then next thing you know, that shit's happening to me, or I'm doing that shit to somebody else, right? It's
Humbling.
like think about the last time that you're trying to get mad at somebody doing something to you, and not only when you last did it to them, how frequently you've done it to certain
Mhm.
people.
Wow.
Because make sure you're not throwing stones and you got a glass house.
Hmm.
Please,
Hmm.
please,
Hmm.
please. If you want to be better, do better.
Yeah,
Show better. But
that's
don't
it.
be just expecting better. Because that's wild. You're insane. You one of the nutcases out here. Hey,
There it is. That was the one.
That was the one.
Yeah, so Uwana, I really, really, really appreciate. I'm glad we made this happen. Um, yeah, one of many for sure. One of many. So yeah, they know how to contact you, and all that. Wonderful conversation. Definitely looking forward to getting that out to as many people as possible. But hey, for those who are here and caught me to the end, thank you for checking out yet another episode of the Smart Dumb Podcast. Y'all be great. Be safe.
Oh,
Got it. Let me shut up.
I I had to learn to, I have to say it out loud to somebody. For me, the note taking process is saying it to somebody else less than it is writing it down, right? But I had to learn to own my weird because I've been confident enough to know that like weird should be valid and accepted as long as it's not harmful, right? I had to learn to own my weird through Disney Channel shows. So if you really fuck with me, you really know me, you're gonna know I'll be in it when it comes to some radio rebel type vibes, right? Because until Issa Rae came on the block, awkwardness was only white. Awkwardness was only white, but I own that shit so early. I don't know if I had like a YouTube channel or some shit like that or a password or something like that, but it was like, I probably shouldn't give this out, but hey, I made a conglomerate, an amalgamation of awkward and weird because to me, I'm just like, AWKWIERD. Like I just learned to own it. But that's when I also got nonchalant about being perceived in the best lights and realized people fuck with me the more awkward I really was for real. So it was just like that has played a significant role in me like being my like best self, right? Because I've always had to learn to like just go full throttle and reel it back in. And it's funny because a lot of people in creative spaces they talk about like they go full throttle on something, realize where it don't work, and reel it back in. Like you gotta go full throttle and embody whatever it is that makes you organic, makes you home, makes you your talent, right? But my gift is literally just being my authentic self. And so for that, I'm realizing like teaching is like the perfect arena because kids eat my authenticity up. I'm not like most adults. They can genuinely sense that, oh, this person with all the intricacies, like I'm not that physically affectionate, right? But with all the intricacies, they can tell that I still give a shit where as adults question it, right? And so it really actually makes I cherish relating to adults when I do, but it actually makes it like so hard. That's probably like a teaching podcast type conversation. But like my authenticity is eaten up and eaten down with the kiddos and with certain people who like want to feel more comfortable being their authentic selves because there's even people in this cohort who help me feel like confident being their authentic selves, right? Like maybe you are the attention whore, maybe you are selfish, maybe you are these things that are seen as flaws. But when I was seeing Whitley getting loved down by Dwayne anyway, I was like, I'm about to be annoying. I'm about to be a whole brat. Let me know. Bet. So I should have been a brat this whole time. Cool. And it's more adorable than I'm a brat. What?
Right. Right.
Be a brat, sis. Be a brat. Own your gratitude.
Right.
Own it. Better that than to be fake, acting like you're not a brat in an unhappy dynamic, because let's be real.
That's it, right? Be your real self so you can find that person that has been waiting for that all along that can handle that. That's
Loves it. Yes.
That's
And it's not even less, it's less that, it's also be yourself so that you just love yourself.
yeah.
And someone is added to that. Because sometimes our language does become a little bit too like for somebody else. And it's just like, no, do it just for you because you will be the happiest version of you and your most favorite version of yourself. Someone was saying when it comes to healing, stop wishing to be your most healed version of yourself because it doesn't leave enough grace sometimes. Be your favorite version of yourself.
Come on. I'm glad you got there. I'm glad you got there.
Because you're gonna keep me accountable and you're gonna literally help me remember that I said those were some of the things. Dang, you didn't make it into the camera, but it's okay. Timing is in due timing.
It's all right. It's all right. No, see, you really don't. Well, actually, you know what? Do you use Zoom a lot?
Yeah,
Oh,
grad
well, then you
school.
wildin'. I haven't stopped yet. So we're good,
We're
right?
still recording.
Yeah, we're good.
The bloopers.